Has it ever occurred to you that nothing ever occurs to God? That's how aware our God is. Nothing ever catches our God by surprise. He never sleeps. He never slumbers. What a spiritual motivation. What this means is, I have no reason to slip because God's sleeplessness is my personal security. Within the context of God's never sleeping, it's talking about my ability to not stumble. I have security in my ability to stay standing because my God is always awake. Third assurance, God is my shadow. God is my shadow. The New Living puts verses 5 and 6 this way. The Lord himself watches over you. The Lord stands beside you as your protective shade. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon at night. The Hebrew word that is translated here by the word shade could also be rendered shadow, which is really an interesting thing to think about. And I don't know that either one of these violates the principle that the psalm is trying to express. But if you think about God being a shadow, then what it means is you can never get away from him, right? You can never escape your shadow. It's always there. Even the lights in this room are producing shadows, and you can't get away from that shadow. If it has to do with shade, then that shade would protect those who were traveling in the desert on their way to Jerusalem, singing about that. The point of the psalm is that God's shade or God's shadow provides protection. Whether we want to think of it as a shade from the brilliant sun, or whether we want to think of it as a shadow that is always near, both of those are illustrations of God's ability to protect. We're always under God's protection. And again, let me illustrate this. True story. The guy's name is William Cowper. He was 32 years old. Things were not going well in his life. He suffered from various forms of depression, would probably have a clinical diagnosis in our day and time. But he made a decision at 32 that he was going to end his life. He made that decision and he drank poison to accomplish that task. The problem was he drank too little poison. He got very sick, but he didn't die. He recuperated from that. Decided he was going to have to come up with a different plan. So late one night, he called a horse-drawn taxi to his house. His intention was to catch a ride to a nearby bridge and to jump over the side of the bridge. They left the house. All of a sudden, one of those England fogs set in, and the cabbie could not find the bridge. He was lost. Finally, William said, well, just stop. The cabbie stopped. William got out of the cab. He was right in front of his own house. He went into the house. Plan A hadn't worked. Plan B hadn't worked. Plan C. He went to the kitchen, pulled out a knife, decided he was going to fall on his knife as ancient King Saul fell on his sword. Fell on the knife. As he did so, the knife broke. Plan C didn't work. Plan D. He went to the closet, emptied out a closet, tied a rope in the closet. As he put that rope around his neck, kicked the chair out from underneath of him, a neighbor came calling, just in time to cut him down and save his life. Okay. William begins to think, God's kind of getting in the way of my plan. So after those 4 failed attempts, here's what he wrote. God moves in a mysterious way, his wonders to perform. He plants his footsteps in the sea and rides upon the storm. Deep in unfathomable minds of never-failing skill, he treasures up his bright designs and works his gracious will. You fearful saints, fresh courage take. The clouds you so much dread are big with mercy and shall break in blessings on your head. Judge not the Lord by feeble sense, but trust him for his grace. Behind a frowning providence, he hides a smiling face. His purposes will ripen fast, unfolding every hour. The bud may have a bitter taste, but sweet will be the flower. Blind unbelief is sure to err and scan his work in vain. God is his own interpreter, and he will make it plain. I'd write a 6-verse song after that too. What does it mean for God to be our protector? Because God is as constant as a shadow and as comforting as a shade, my life can enjoy stability. Then lastly, the psalm also speaks that God is always steadfast. That God is always steadfast. The Lord will protect you from all evil. He will keep your soul. The Lord will guard your going out and your coming in from this time forth and forever. Reminds me of the same terminology, similar terminology that Jesus used when he gathered with his disciples, his apostles before ascending, and he said, "Lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age." The psalm expresses God's continued presence. There was a London newspaper. Most of my illustrations are from England today. Interesting. There was a London newspaper that contained a unique picture. There was a picture of a policeman standing in an intersection with his white glove raised, and all of the traffic was stopped. And you could see, there was not just car traffic, pedestrians were stopped, bicycles were stopped. And you could not help but wonder when you saw this first picture that undoubtedly, it must be the Queen or it must be a prince. Somebody must be coming down the road. Well, the second picture revealed that this policeman was stopping all of this traffic for a mother duck and her ducklings. And they were walking across the street. And everything was held up for them. Do you ever think about God holding up traffic for you? God is steadfast. God will hold up traffic for you when it needs to happen, when he knows it needs to happen. He protects from all evil. He will keep your soul. He will guard your going out and your coming in. God stops traffic for you. What all this means? Because of God's steadfastness, I am always dwelling in safety. I'm always dwelling in safety. This traveler's song is all about that God is going to be about the task of keeping you. Depending on the translation you use, I think it's 5 or 6 times in this short psalm that the expression keeping is there. God will keep you. God will keep. God will keep. God will keep. God keeps his children. As your keeper, God is on your side. He'll provide shelter. As your keeper, God never sleeps. That should give you security. As your keeper, God is your shadow. He will always give you stability. And as your keeper, God is steadfast, and that enables you to live a safe life. Folks, these are unbelievable truths that we need to bring into our lives during times of trial, during times of hurt. These are truths that ascend us to a new spiritual place. There's a father and son hiked up into the mountains, and I know in Nebraska that's a mind stretch. But if you've ever visited Montana, there are some. Father and son hiked up into the mountains. The father took this occasion as they came upon the summit and could see for miles and that majestic beauty. And the father said, "Son, I need for you to know that the God's love is as big as all of this. It's this huge." To which the son said, "And just think, Dad, we're right in the middle of it all." That's what this psalm is all about. God's love is so huge. He is the keeper of his people. And you and I are right in the middle of it all. What a privilege we have. I want you to leave today knowing that you are right smack dab in the middle